Boys is getting quiet. Go on and get crunk. Head back to Longview, Kelly popping trunk. I ain't even tripping. Riding and I'm sipping. Let me come through 4-4, steady tipping. On that new lap. Watch the trunk crack. Let me sit sideways, CB running back. Maybe AP, maybe AD. I ain't even tripping cause we some athletes. Messing with Smitty in the summertime. He get pissed if we don't make our time. But we gon' get it cause we gotta finish. Nebraska Horn Hustlers, man, we diminish. Put them boys little, paint like a skittle. I ain't even tripping, I ain't never double dribble. Cause I'm a player from the Himalaya. Let me sit sideways, man. Maybe back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends.
All right, welcome into Fullback U and a special Fullback U, a surprise podcast. You might notice that we have a little trophy here and a trophy person, a trophy individual. Honored to say that I got my brother Jason White in. Jay, how you feeling?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. And this is our trophy. You helped with this, JD.
I feel that, Jay, and I'm going to sleep next to this thing like it's our trophy, so I don't mind telling you that. I'm going to wear this ring to bed. No problem. Let's talk about, Jay, what was that feeling like when you got announced? When they called your name? I want to tell the story of where I was after, but what was that like?
It was a surreal feeling. I don't know if you've ever, you've been in it's kind of like when you go in a stadium and it's super loud, but you really don't hear it. And it's the same thing. When they said my name, everything just got super slow motion. I remember looking right at my mom and dad, and then I looked right at Coach Stoops, and it was like they were clapping in slow motion. And so, I went down and I hugged my mom and dad and Coach, and on the way to the podium, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't write no speech. I got so many people to thank, and I don't want to forget nobody. So, as you're walking up there, you're thinking in your head, oh, make sure I thank this person, make sure I thank that person. And but it's an unbelievable feeling just to be in that group of guys, and there's only 84 of them. I know, with Archie winning 2, this 85th was just this last weekend. So there's 84 people in the world that has got that experience, and man, it's awesome.
There's some people on East Side 24th Street, if they still live there, they probably think me, Keywan, and Dan Cody are crazy. When you won that award, dude, we ran up and down the street like there was nothing. We ran out of the house, couldn't believe it. We're just floored. So happy for you. Couldn't have happened to a better person, more deserving person. I'll get into that. Want to talk about Joe Burrow. We obviously play him. Was that your vote? What do you think about his game? That whole deal.
Yeah, no, I think Joe's had an outstanding year this year. He's a complete player, and he's taking care of business off the field and on the field. As a Heisman voter, I actually take it serious. I try not to be a homer and vote just because the guy's a Sooner. He was on my ballot, but I think Joe Burrow was by far, he had the best season. He meant the most to his team this year. Excited to play him though. I've been in that. I know what the next couple weeks for him after winning that Heisman Trophy, what it's like. It's a lot. It's a lot of requests. It's a lot of running, doing this, doing that. So it's tough. So that might play in the favor for the Sooners, but I still like our chances.
I got to give you credit. Back when we did bowl prep, we almost won. We used to have to get used to you going to New York. So, we would have to plan on practices being around that. But you also, man, just the way you carried yourself, Jay, the way you handled your business. I'm going to get into all that. The one thing I love about this podcast, you're going to laugh when I say this, and hopefully you do, because I've never seen this side of Jay White. Trent Smith came in. He was one guy I really looked up to, senior when I was a freshman, that whole deal. Roy Williams comes in. He was top 10 pick when I'm leaving, that whole deal. They all, when I ask them about their first day, crumble and talk about Schmitty and that whole deal. Was Jay White that same way? Were you that starry-eyed freshman? Because I've heard some stories about when you came in, and I'll tell you about that. But tell me about your first few days.
Man, I hated it. My very first day, I didn't even do the weightlifting side of things.
Didn't make it.
No, he told me not to. He said, "Hey, come and do the running, and then, then we'll, as we get into the summer, you'll work into the weights." So I came and did the running the very first day, and I just kept thinking to myself, when is this over with? Like, when is this over with? And I was dying. I mean, couldn't breathe. Felt like I had to throw up the whole time. But afterwards, I literally, you remember, did you ever see the old locker room that was underneath the bleachers when they were doing the renovations?
No, I didn't get when they're there. It was like right when they were finishing, we got there.
Yeah, so it was the old wrestling room.
Yeah.
And that's where our locker room was at that time for the summer. Well, I went in there, and there was nobody in there. I literally laid on the floor of the shower for at least an hour with cold water just pouring on me.
No shame.
No.
No shame.
No, not at all. I didn't even care. I was thinking about how many dirty feet have been on this floor. I didn't care at that time, but I was hurting. And that's when I realized, like, holy cow, this is a whole different level. And so, for me, it really got me motivated because I didn't like being last when we ran sprints, or I didn't like not knowing how to do something. So that made me really get going after that.
Was there's certain, obviously, I mean, since you won the Heisman, that whole deal, but dude, you were an amazing player. There's like stories that are told about Jay White that aren't told about other people. That one of my assistant coaches was telling me when y'all played Newcastle in high school and you came back within like 2 minutes, scored 2 or 3 touchdowns to win the game or something like that. Even more in depth of how great of an athlete you were, and this is some shit a lot of people won't know, but Jay, when I got there, I'm going to just say this, and I hope you'll understand when I say it, but guys on the team didn't give any white dudes any credit for what they did at the Huff. Yeah. Jay White was known. They would say, "Hey, you better not step into Jay White. He'll dunk on you. He'll jump off one leg and dunk on you." Yeah. What? I mean, is that true? One, I mean, what were those days like?
Yeah, our very first, my freshman season, a group of guys went over and played basketball, and they split up the teams, and of course I'm the token white guy, so I really didn't get a whole lot of playing time in that first time, and then the very next time we went, I'll never forget. You remember Howard Duncan?
Oh yeah, Big Howard.
He was I was coming down the middle of the lane. He stepped over to block my shot, and I just leaped on him and threw it down on him in the Huff, and from that moment on,
the legend grew.
Yeah, it was never like, hey, let's wait. I got to wait to get picked. It was, hey, Jay, you're over here.
Yep, got you.
So
that's awesome.
I love basketball. Basketball was probably my first love, but I knew I wasn't going to grow much more, and I threw the football better. So
there was something that happened my freshman year. You may not remember it, but it really showed me what college football meant to you. And that was when you tore your ACL against Alabama at home, and you came back in street clothes, and you actually talked to me. And it was one of the first times we had talked. But I could feel, Jay, there's people out there that they'd be hurt, and it's, man, I'll come back next year. You were broken. It was the worst thing that could have ever happened to you. And then the work that I saw you put in afterwards was like you were psychotic. I mean, there were some drills, and I'll talk about those when you're done, but just talk about that game, if you will. I wasn't around you in high school, but I was watching, I believe it was the Nebraska game where you got hurt that one. I was watching that one on TV. You had a huge impact on it, me coming here, you guys' offense and that whole deal, but just talk about the injuries that you had.
The first one wasn't bad at all. It was, it was a straight ACL tear. I never had a major injury like that, so I had no clue what was going on. Of course, I'm like, hey, tape it up, let's go. But then, hey, well, it's a torn ACL, and I didn't know what that was, but it was pretty serious from what I gathered. But then, the second one was the kicker. After that second one, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not. For 2-3 weeks, I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I was told I probably wasn't going to play again, or, then other people would say, hey, you still have a chance to play. So you're having all these mixed emotions about what to do. And then, just to be straightforward, like feeling sorry for yourself. Like, how does this happen? Less than a year away, you tear both ACLs. So for me, it was the moment that I actually decided, hey, if I'm going to try to come back and play, I need to give it everything I got. And that way, if I'm standing on the sideline holding a clipboard my senior year, like, at least I know I gave it all I had. And so that's where that psychotic workout would come from. I mean, I'd hit up the training room 2 times a day. I mean, those people, the guy Jim and Scott in there, they would actually be like, hey, you don't need to come tomorrow. Like, you're good for the week. But that for me, it was like, hey, this is what I can do to get back in the game. And during that time as well, I was still hitting the weight room.
Still throwing 7-on-7,
yeah,
whatever you could
throwing.
do.
And then I also watched a lot of film in that time. And during that time is when I started understanding the concept of our offense. And once I understood that, like, everything was so easy. Everything was in slow motion. You know those feelings.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're in slow motion, but a lot of people, oh, that was a tough break. Well, I honestly, I look at it as like, hey, this is someone testing you to see, like, how bad do you want to play football? And if you want to play that bad, well, you're going to have to do all these things to play.
Yeah.
And that's the way I took it, and I took it and ran with it. And I'm glad I did, because there were several times I was like, you know what, let's just hang up the old cleats and, get a job. And I'm glad I decided to, give it a shot.
Man, me too. One of the drills I remember when you were rehabbing, we used to come in, and again, you're still trying to run 7-on-7. I remember you throwing a knee brace on, saying, I'm just going to do it. You're doing it. But you used to put those slide shoes on, and you would slide side to side. You're laughing. And I think you could do like 26 in like 30 seconds or something wild. And Smitty made me try it one time, and I got like 14, 15. And I was like, dude, Jay's ridiculous. Also, when you started throwing, I started realizing you were one of the first quarterbacks I saw that didn't throw with laces. I mean, you would just grab the damn ball, chunk it. Talk to me about that. What you sharpened those skills, and then also, I mean, I knew Chuck Long as Mr. Positivity, as an offensive guru, as this whole deal. But tell me something that I wouldn't know about maybe Coach Long that was getting you ready for this season.
Just going into that year, just like, still running 7-on-7 and stuff, I had to be in front of you guys. I had to show you guys, like I still wanted to be a part. I wanted to be the guy. And so, and plus, I got a little taste of playing Oklahoma football. And I say Oklahoma football, there's nothing like it. And so you get that taste, you don't want to ever let it go. You don't want to let that taste go. And so just that drive, and then it killed me to watch you guys out there working out, throwing up, leaning on each other. That killed me to sit over there and have to watch that. So I wanted to get back in that as soon as possible. But, man, I can't say enough about Coach Long. Coach Long is like you said, he's the most positive person I've ever met. And I've got several stories, I looked into transferring, and before I even mentioned it to him, he already knew. He already knew. And so,
just could sense it.
Yeah. And so he told me the pros and cons, and decided to stay. And then even that year, I came back from that knee surgery really quick, the second one, and I started going through spring ball, and I was struggling because my knee kept swelling up really big. And I was having trouble, and so
you have to get it drained.
Yes.
Back then, I remember having to get it drained.
Yeah, and so and I wanted to get back in the rotation because there was Brent Rawls, which had a cannon. There was Paul Thompson, Rhett Bomar. All these guys are fighting for that spot. So I felt if I didn't get back in that rotation and show them what I could do, that I wouldn't have a shot. So that's why I went through spring ball. Well, after the first week of spring ball, I went into Coach Long's office, down and out, and I shut the door behind me, and I said, Coach, and he looked at me and he goes, nope. And I said, you don't even know what I'm going to ask. And he goes, oh, I know what you're going to come in here and say you can't do it anymore. And I said, how do you know that? And he goes, well, I see it. He said, but guess what? He said, when's the first game? I said, September. He goes, what month is it? March. Okay, well, what are you worried about? Why are you? And I said, well, spring ball. He said, guess what? That don't matter. He said, come fall, if you're ready to go, then we'll see where you're at. And so he really saw that I was struggling, and he okayed it for me to, hey, stop rushing. We don't play until September. Take your time and heal up and get better. And that right there, showed me a lot about him. And then, in fact, we share the same birthday.
Yeah.
So that summer, on my birthday, I was walking over to do 7-on-7 in the indoor, and Coach Long's walking out of the indoor. He had been running or something. And he's walking out, and he goes, "Hey, Jay Bird," is what he called me. "Hey, Jay Bird, I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay." I said, "What's going on, Coach?" He said, "Well, just want you to know we're going to announce you the starter today." And it was on my birthday.
Awesome.
So I was like, wow, this is great. And he said, "Well, we're going to announce it today around lunch." He said, "I just wanted you to know first, and hey, you're our guy. So you put this team on your back and run with it."
Yeah.
And so from that point forward, it gave confidence to me that, the coaches had that confidence that I could still play. And so from that point forward, I never looked back.
About your knee being drained, was the needle huge?
Oh, gosh.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, well, that's not the worst needle. The worst needle I ever had was the one that went in my toe.
I remember that too. I remember you talking about that when you had turf toe.
Yeah,
I remember that. Damn.
So they take your big toe, right, and they pull it out. They pull it, and then that joint right there, they stick this long needle in that joint, and then they just roll it around. They roll it around, and that is the worst thing I've ever had to do.
So physically, you went through a lot. I mean, that, and then just kind of what I heard for what you're saying. One, I saw what you put into it mentally, and that shit'll wear on you, man. And just beyond knowing, because your knowledge, you had to be ready for a certain element of surprise that even us as players weren't ready for, or couldn't possibly know about. Shifts and blitzes and this and that and coverage, and I mean the whole package. But also, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, we're bringing in dudes. Bomar runs 4.4 flat. Shooter's an elite. Rawls is an elite damn throwing arm. But you're right, Jay. I mean, when you went out, what the thing I think about is you had a master control of the huddle. Something that even I love Nate to death. I mean, you were up there with Nate earlier than he was. I mean, you were more comfortable in that setting. And to me, it was comforting, and it pushed me, because you would show, as a quarterback, if you don't mess up in the huddle, that's one thing. People take for granted, Jay, we were a signal team. Mm-hmm. That's two. I mean, you're sitting here, explode a bunch, right F move, it's lose 6-7 F shoot on 2, ready break. I mean, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, you got it. I mean, so just talk about that. I mean, how you obviously had the film study, but the command of the huddle.
It's always been something that's taught to me from high school on, was the importance of being a confident quarterback, because your teammates are around you. They feed off that. So if you're confident, they're going to be confident. If you're down because you threw an interception, they're going to be down. And so you always had to keep that even keel of, I'm not too high and I'm not too low. Like, I never really got excited with touchdowns or anything like that. But even when I threw interceptions, I tried not to show you guys that it bothered me, although it ate me up inside. I try not to show that it bothered me. So that's an important part of quarterbacking, is just having that command and having that confidence. Look at Tom Brady. That dude is so calm and collected in the huddle and before the snap that there's no other choice for his guys but to be calm.
With a shorter clock than us, absolutely. And
that's
longer terminology, more.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things that's important. When a quarterback can spout off the play without a hitch and not like kind of try to think about what he needs to say, that's a big confidence booster. Like your players in front of you are saying, "Man, this guy knows what he's talking about." And so, I don't know if you remember, but we used to call 2 plays in the huddle.
Hell yeah.
And then check.
Roy check, 34 check, Roy stay, or something like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so you'd come to the line and you'd have to see, okay, well, that check play looks a little bit better, so we'll check. But yeah, I mean, just the terminology and getting all that right, that requires a lot of study. But I always felt like being that guy and making sure that you guys, in the huddle were never had any doubt that I was struggling or anything. There's only a few times I can remember that I had no clue what was going on. One of them was Texas in 2003. Marcus Tubbs hit me under the chin. Actually, I got 6 stitches from it.
I remember that now that you mentioned it.
And I got up and I started walking toward the Texas sideline because I had no clue what was going on. And Mark Clayton comes over there and he's like, "Jay White, where are you going?" I'm like, "The sideline." He's like, "It's that way." And I was like, "Whoa." So, but yeah, just little things like that. That's important to a team. It's important for a quarterback to have that demeanor.
Our sophomore year, I'm trying to think of one. I mean, you mentioned it, the run check pass that we did out of the I formation, man, is still we were damn good, Jay.
That was a long time ago.
It was, but we were that style. We were good at what we did, man.
Especially when you had you blocking, you had AD running.
This was sophomore year, so you said 03. So this would have been
04.
But then 04. Well, let's stay on 03 because I want to get a year because 03. You were special. Let's stop before we get to AD because we're gonna get there. My top 3 games of you, 03, obviously A&M and Texas. I would have to throw OSU in there, but to me, Jay, I don't know that there will ever be halves of football like you and Mark Clayton's first half against A&M and that second half against. I mean, maybe not even the second half, just second and third quarter against Texas. Unreal.
Yeah, I mean that. A&M's probably the best half I've ever played, and but the funny thing about that game is, you were in the locker room, but I threw up every single game about the time you guys started the prayer, and it was always like I'm in there barfing, and I hear you guys saying the prayer, and I'm just like, man, this isn't right.
The ritual.
Yeah, but A&M, for some reason, I didn't have to throw up. And I kept telling myself, walking down the tunnel to run out on the field, I kept telling myself, I'm not ready to play.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to play. And because I didn't throw up. And so once the game started, and I think it started off, 16 for 16, and I was like, I guess I am ready. But that game, it was just like we were in a twilight zone. And, like I said earlier, it was like the whole game for me was in slow motion. There's some plays that, you feel like it's really fast, but then that game, every play was slow motion, and everything was just falling into place. And me and Mark was on the same page that day, and it seemed like every time I threw him the ball, he would run it for a touchdown. So that was a special team.
Yeah, man. You mentioned 16 for 16, and I automatically thought of going into 04, your Nebraska game. I don't remember what you started in that game. I apologize in 04 that I gave a fan the high five and got us a personal foul on your record-setting touchdown. We'll have to show that one. Bob was not happy. But let's talk about that Nebraska game because that was a record setter too. I mean, just talk about your feelings in that. Thank you for trusting me over in the flat and hitting me with that ball. I should have broke a few more tackles, but anyway, I appreciate the trust on that and the spot route that you hit me on that. So, but talk about that game.
That was an important game to me. First of all, it was a senior night. That was a big game. And then second of all, I grew up watching OU Nebraska. And so to be a part of that and actually play in that game was important to me. And then, the third thing is the last time I played Nebraska, I got hurt in the second quarter. And they ended up winning. So I really wanted, that game was important. And I wanted to go out with a bang. And, luckily, we did. That was a great night, and we played well.
So let's talk about AD. So we're big and bad. We 2003, you win the Heisman. We have some open holes for our runners. We have this running back out of Texas that comes up. We think we're big shit, and this dude just comes in. And credit to you for one. Not many people would have allowed themselves to take a back seat. Yeah. And you did that, and you did it with class, and we wouldn't have been the same team without you. Talk about his emergence when he showed up, just thoughts on him.
And I think you were in there that day, JD, but we were in there working out in the indoor, and here comes this guy. He's wearing slider pants and a cutoff T-shirt, and he walks in, and everyone kind of looks at him like, who's the JUCO guy? Who's the fifth-year senior that looks like a man? This guy walks in, and he just looks like a full grown. I've been working out for 20 years, man.
Yeah.
And
He starts talking, sounds like this, and that's
yeah. Yeah. And we were running 6 trippers that day. And I remember he finished. I went down, back, and I was going down, and he was finishing. And I remember looking over at some of the other guys thinking, man, if that kid can run 4 of these like that, I mean, he is an animal. And sure enough, the very next one he fell out, because he went so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, those were tough. And sure enough, the very next one he fell
awesome.
off. But
Awesome.
I could just see the way he ran, the way he looked, like he was going to be special.
Yeah. Talk about, I mean, okay, fans are going to love this part, and people think I'm joking about this, Jay, but I thought, whatever Bob had told him, 2-a-days, I thought AD was going to redshirt because we could not get the handoff to him.
Yeah.
I was like, shit. I mean, what was that like? Just talk about that scenario. Just tell us.
And, I want to say frustrating, but it wasn't. He's a freshman, and he's learning the playbook. He's more worried about going to the right spot than taking the ball. And so once he figured out, like, hey, okay, I need the ball first before I go, it got better. But I recall his entire year that year, especially the first few games, like it was a constant, hey, AD, you need to go, you're going to the right outside. It was, you had to tell him where to go. I mean, he's a freshman. It's a big playbook, and he was overwhelmed. And I remember they always took him out on passing downs because he had no clue who to block.
Can't get Jay Whitehead on that, man.
Well, and one of the first times he was in, we were coming to the line, and I can't remember the play, but I told him, I said, look, if 54 comes, you got to block him. I said, if 55 comes, you got to block him. And he goes, what if they both come? And I said, okay, block the inside one, which would be 54. Well, I get ready. I go through everything I need to do. Snap the ball. Both of them come. Who does he pick up? He picks out the outside guy, which is the guy I'm throwing hot on. So I see him go over there. I think that everybody's picked up. Well, I get sacked. I get hit right in the face and get sacked. And, of course, he comes. Jay White, was that my guy? Yeah. I said it sure was. And then, of course, Coach Gundy's over there yelling, get him off the field. So, but, man, what a player. The way he turned out and the career he's had in the NFL, I mean, the guy just was bound for it, and you could see it from day one.
Yeah. One game that makes me think of, and I don't want to even say a backseat, Jay, because we don't come out of Stillwater with a victory if it isn't for you on the throw to Bradley. Just some of the leadership you had, just leading us through that. But damn, what a performance by AD up there, man. I mean, just talk about that game. Yeah,
one play sticks out in particular. It was a power. You made the lead block. But that play sticks out because I put up the touchdown sign before he was even close. I mean, he was still, but I saw how wide that hole was, and that kid, I mean, just bursted through it and all the way to the end zone. But man, that game was an awesome game. It was fun to be a part of it. We went back and forth forever. I think people forget they missed a 35-yard field goal to tie the game.
Right.
But it seemed like our defense was struggling a little bit, and we couldn't stop them. So every time we scored, they would score. We'd have to come back out and score again. But I remember that pass to Mark Bradley. It was a 2-minute drill, and Mark Bradley just in the corner of the end zone, wide open. I threw a back shoulder throw, and he caught it and scored. So. But that was a great game. It was a great game to be a part of.
That one, and he threw the crosser off his face that he took off his face and bounced up, and then caught that one. That was an unbelievable play. He looked so fast on that. Man, Jay, this is gonna be awesome. You have to excuse me. My sinuses has been bothering me, so I'm getting old, Jay. But AD again. Tell me some stories about New York. He gets to go as a freshman. Do you think he got snubbed? Do you get to vote?
Yeah.
In your when you're in school. So
Yes.
did you get to vote your senior year? Interesting. So talk about that whole deal, and then if you gave, I'm pretty sure you voted for it.
I did. Yeah. No, it's that was a unique experience, and to do it with one of your teammates was even better. You know, to be up there and actually, I mean, there were 2 guys from Oklahoma, 2 guys from USC. You know, it was a really unique experience. I don't know if it's ever happened before, but to see AD and to see him in that limelight, and you know, you just knew that kid had a bright future, and he handled himself well off the field, just like up there. I mean, you got a young freshman that, when you're in New York for the Heisman, I mean, it's a big deal. It's like the red carpet everywhere you go, and he handled it with class. He was very good with it, and like I said, I kept telling people that year, like, hey, look, I got one. Let's, you know, if you're gonna vote for me, vote for him first. You know, so I really wanted him to win it, and I really feel like if I wouldn't have been in the race, he probably would have won it. But you know, that's one guy that I can honestly say that, you know, deserved it, you know, that didn't get it.
NFL stories, experience, and then tell everybody what you're doing now.
You know, I went with I went to Kansas City first, and although the coach flat out told me, like, hey, we made a mistake, like you know, you did really well this weekend. You had better stats, you knew how to call the plays. I mean, I thought he was fixing to offer me a contract, to be honest with you. And then at the very end, he said, but Jason, he said, this is a tough business, and, you know, we've already invested in this guy. And
who was the quarterbacks there? Was it McNair?
No, that was my next stop.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember who the quarterback was there when I was there. But the guy they drafted that year was from Oklahoma. He actually went to Tulsa.
Okay.
But they drafted him in like the 4th round or something, 4th or 5th round. But he told me, he's like, hey, this is a business, and we've already invested in this guy. And I never forget. I mean, I was speechless, because at that point I realized, like, wow, this is a business. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't care about getting the best players. They just, it's about the money. And so for me, I just remember telling Coach Vermeil, I said, hey, I appreciate the opportunity. But I see that you're not into winning. And I said, so I appreciate the opportunity, though. And I left. And then Coach Fisher called. Actually, Coach Fisher had called me before I even got to the airport in Kansas City. Hey, you want to come down here? And I talked to him a little bit, and so I ended up going to the Titans. I was there for a while. Ended up hurting my knee again there. But, man, I loved it. Man, that NFL experience, it would have been a great job to be a part of, because you control your own destiny when it comes to your working out, your film study. I mean, you're a grown man. Like, it's your job to do that stuff, and it's up to you to do that. So those are things I love to do. So, you know, it would have been fun. It would have been a great job to have and be a part of. It just so happens that, you know, my knees wouldn't hold up for it.
We'll do some like rapid fire, because I know you're busy, man. We'll get you out of here, but we'll do about like 5-10 just quick questions. How's fatherhood?
I love it. Kids have been great. I got a 17-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. So, man, it's been great. And to watch them grow and do different things, you know, it's definitely been a great ride.
Recruiting memory.
I'll never forget Coach Stoops. The day he got announced head coach of Oklahoma, I got home from school that day. Mom said, hey, there's a Coach Stoops that called.
Hey, Coach Stoops.
Yeah, she had no clue. And I said, so I called him back. He said, hey, Jace, Coach Stoops, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, I'd like to come see you. And I said, okay, well, when do you want to come down? He said, right now. I said, right now? And he said, yeah. He goes, how long does it take to get to Tuttle? And back then he said it was 45 minutes, because that turnpike wasn't there. Yeah. And so he said, I'll be there in 45 minutes. And I was like, wait a minute. I got to ask my mom. Yeah. You know, because she wanted the house clean and all that stuff. And so I asked Mom. And, of course, Mom didn't care, because it was the Oklahoma coach. She wanted me to stay close. So she's like, oh, yeah, send him. Come on, bring him.
Come on, here we go.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's probably my best memory.
Funny story from the bud.
Funny story. Oh, I just one that I can talk about. I came home one night. I can't remember where we were. It was a group of us, but we came home one night, and there's this young lady laying on the ground by the glass windows. And I'll never forget. I walked over. The first time I had ever seen anything like this. I walked over there and I said, "Ma'am," I said, "Are you okay? What happened?" And she said, "I slipped and fell." I was like, but it wasn't slick. And she said, "No, I slipped and fell off those glass windows right there."
Wow.
Somebody was trying to
sneak her in.
somebody was trying to pull her up. And so I still never found out who it was.
Whoops.
Yeah.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Funny Schmitty story.
Funny Smith. Only time I ever did anything that I still to this day don't think it was wrong. But I showed up. We had workouts at 6 a.m. I had just had a kid, and all night staying up, taking care of Tinley, and it was 5:55 when I walked through that door, and he had just called up the team to break out. So as I'm walking in, y'all are getting called up. I sprint to the huddle, get my hand in there like I've been there the whole time, break out, and then Smitty calls me out. Jay White, get on the Stairmaster.
Oh.
I said, "What?" He goes, "Get on the Stairmaster." And I said, "Coach, I'm here." Well, you're late. And I was, okay. Well, I wasn't late though, but you know how Smitty was. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're late.
Absolutely. Least favorite workout was the Stairmaster?
No, least favorite workout were the hills. And in fact, after I hurt my knees, that was a blessing because the doctors wouldn't let me run the hills anymore. But before that, man, those hills with the sleds, those were days that you just did not want to be around.
Yeah. Smartest football coach you were around?
Smartest football coach. And that's a tough one.
You give a few.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to. Coach Long, very knowledgeable, especially at the quarterback position. And then Coach Wilson.
Man.
Coach Wilson he's just a
sharp.
Yeah. And Mike Leach.
That's awesome.
Coach Leach was just a different guy, but he did well with teaching, teaching what his knowledge.
You can go back and play one game. Which one?
Ooh. Man. How about two?
Both natties.
Yes.
My bro. Every fan wants to know your level of fucking pain from Big 12 championship if you were hurt.
After the game? Like right after?
I don't know. I don't know what they want to know.
Okay, so after the game, I was beat up. I had a concussion. I had my hand was hurt. My knee hurt. There was a lot. My toe. There was a bunch. And I know they were getting at it with this. But so every fan out there can understand that week of practice, you were there. Mm-hmm. I practiced great.
Wasn't a doubt.
I threw the ball well, and even the game. People don't realize that how physical LSU was, and how physical their corners were. Mm-hmm. Our guys weren't used to that. Getting open was a problem that game, and so when the guys aren't open, it makes it tough on the quarterback.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I wasn't hurt enough to not play. I wasn't hurt. I ended up breaking my foot during the game. I don't remember what quarter, but ended up breaking my foot during the game, but it didn't hinder me 'cause I wasn't running, So, but I wasn't to the point that I should have been pulled.
A lot of that, in my opinion, was because when Mike left, he determined a lot of our run game and got on to Chuck about putting him in the I formation and giving his defense a lot of time. And Jay, it just crushes me to hear that, just because we did keep you clean so much, and especially doing those things and keeping you in control. And we didn't put on film that we were the team to just zero blitz all day, just to man up and press and do that. And then when K-State has a little bit of success pressuring us, LSU does the same thing. Few more lightning round. Future plans. I mean, you got this beautiful thing, the autograph signings here and there. What's Jay White gonna do?
Mainly it's with Air Comfort Solutions. I just took over the commercial HVAC side of it, so I handle all the commercial accounts and customers. It's been a good fit for me. It's a great company to be a part of. It's very team-like atmosphere. That's what I like about it. It's not a corporate deal. It's still a mom and pop shop atmosphere, and it's a locally owned company. So, it's a great group to be a part of. And I just took over the commercial about 3 months ago. And
awesome commercials, man. Love you in the cold tub, but next to weed and hilarious. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was a lot tougher with that than I was.
I get it. You're not a cold tub guy.
Not anymore. Yeah. I used to be.
Yeah. Two more. What do you think of the new OU facilities?
Oh, I love them. What's cool about that is, you and me both, we have a little bit of, in that. If it wasn't for our success, those things wouldn't be happening. So it's really cool to see that place grow and the success they're having now. Because I feel like we have a little part of that.
Absolutely.
Coach Stoops coming in, bringing me in, bringing you in, our teams that we played on, we got that. Kind of got that ball rolling.
The Natty was one thing, man, but this joint was a whole different ball game, man. For Bob, it really was. I mean, that just. Speaking of, we played LSU. Thoughts on LSU? What ended with that? Thoughts on the game that we're about to play?
Man, I think it's going to be a lot tighter game than what people are giving it credit for. I feel like LSU, the SEC is built totally different than the Big 12. And when I say that, I mean your defenses in the SEC are going to be your power stoppers or your run stopper guys, your big, linebackers that take on those fullbacks like you. So I just feel like our defense is prepared for both. And that's how LSU has had such great success this year in the SEC is they run a whole different offense now. Yeah. They're throwing the ball. Yeah. And they don't do that down there. And so I think once we get there and we show, hey, we know how to cover the pass. Yep. This isn't new to us. I think it'll be a great game. And I do one thing I know that OU will have to do is they're going to have some sustained drives. You got to keep that guy off the field. He's a great player. He can make things happen. He's smart. So although you might be covering all these guys, he's got some wheels. He can make some things happen. And so you're going to have a good game plan for that.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, man, it's been awesome. There's not much I can really say except for thank you. More than it was a lot more than football, man. I mean, I was thinking of a story just now, but Jay, you really don't realize how great you pushed us to be. And when you graded out at 100%, we wanted to do that same thing. And poor Grant Halsey, I've been bringing him up. He was a great scout team player from Tuttle. He would have got to play if my ass wouldn't have been blocking him. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but you bring up a fullback like me. I mean, but unfortunately, Jay, you set the standard of if you were going to protect him, he's 100% on throws. He's 100% on pre-snap reads. He's 100% on these things. And, lastly, man, fans, fuck them for it. I love you all to death. But if you really want to say anything about this guy in the last two games after what you just heard, I can't deal with that. I love y'all to death, but dude, Jason gave everything for this university. He was prepared to play. We let him down just as much. I stepped out of bounds on a damn touchdown. We scored on the next play. We probably should have thrown the damn Kiwan pass to me. I'll say it. Okay, I would have caught it. Okay, there's certain things that happen, but dude, you put that ball on the money. We just fingertip missed it. I mean, there's plays here and there, but dude, again, I go back to. Let me stop. The Texas A&M game down in College Station, fam. Jason, we wouldn't have been to the Orange Bowl if it wasn't for you in that scenario. I couldn't hear. That was the loudest stadium. I couldn't hear myself think. And you, without even knowing what fucking route Bradley's going to run, hit him for a touchdown to win the game. I mean, damn.
Yeah, that was a crazy play because I called the play in the huddle. Like you said, you can't even hear. I'm yelling the play. Bradley is supposed to run a corner route. And a corner route's a timing route. And so I'm 1, 2, 3, hitch and throw it. So I'm going through those steps. I know the corner route's going to be there as long as Bradley wins. And I take them 3 steps and I see, I had a good feel with my receivers. So I knew just by certain motions, I knew if they were going to turn in or out. Well, he had this inside turn look to him. And I thought, oh, well, surely he's doing something different. Well, I hitch, and I'm about to throw it, and I see he breaks inside. So I immediately come off him. And I'm like, what's he? So I go somewhere else. No one's open. So I run a little bit up the field, and all of a sudden, Mark Bradley's standing in the middle of the field, and there's not anybody within 10 yards of him. And so I throw it to him, and he scores.
Yeah.
I get to the sideline, and I'm getting my Coach Long is, what are you doing? Why'd you call that? I'm like, Coach, I called it. I called X corner. And he said, well, what's he running? I don't know. So I go over to Bradley, and I'm like, Mark, why'd you run the wrong route? He goes, I don't know. Did I run the wrong route?
You didn't have to worry about that with me, Jay.
Exactly.
You didn't have to worry about that with me. But I'll tell you what, I do feel bad. There's a play I feel bad, a play I feel average, a play I feel good. I mentioned the one that I gave the fan the high five. I apologize. I fucking dropped a touchdown pass, Jay. Missouri at home, my R03. I was wide open, and past 26, you're wide open too. That's the thing, and you put it right there. That was the other thing is Jade never missed a pass. I mean, it's just the shit was your fault if you drop it. I mean, yeah, man, damn, you can't sit there. You can't even tell your homeboys. It was a bad throw. No, that shit wasn't gonna happen. But that, and then like I said, the play I'm really proud that we made was that play in the national championship, crawling back and us hitting each other, and even again, I mean, that's the natty dude. I mean, tough throw for you. We had been up and down that game. I mean, just tough. You booted out. You throw it to me. We hit it, and boom, we should have scored, and it happens. But there were so many plays, man, that I could just. You mentioned the A&M game. We started that game off with Lucy's 7-up shoot. You hit me for an 8-yard gain. I probably should have got more, but you were just on a roll. That just started. We always said if we get you your first pass completed, your ass was not going to be stopped that day. Yeah. And
that's why they were always short passes.
Short passes. So I was just glad to that. But man, like I said, it was just. There was a tough nature, there was a competitive nature, but there was a smart nature about you, Jay. There was this, it made me want to go watch film. It made me want to surprise you with something football knowledge-wise. It made me want to be more of a teammate. I'm proud of that Don Key Award because that's the damn Heisman of OU. I mean, so. But like you said, man, just like I got a part in that, you got a huge part in that. So thank you for everything, man. You're a huge part in why I was a captain. Sticking around. And I just, man, we got to do this again. And two, I just feel like again, man, the quarterback position is so much of the blame is put on you, and not enough of the success is put on you, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, that as a quarterback, you're gonna be the star, but you're also gonna take the fall. So as a quarterback, that it's like that even when you're in Little League. So I don't have a problem with it. I can't think of one game that I can go back and say, man, I wish I would have tried harder. And if there is an athlete out there that can say that, come on, what are you doing? I mean, because you're blessed enough to be out there on that field, you should be giving it your all every single play. And so at the end of the day, I'm okay with the losses. There's 3 of them.
Yep.
And in those 3 losses, I mean,
3 of them.
I could.
Losses.
I mean, I can go back and I
those
can
are championship games. Those are ring games. You know.
And so I can go back and I think to myself, man, there's nothing I could have done different because I gave it everything. And so, I mean, there's certain. I wish I would have threw that pass a little bit shorter, but at the same time, what if Keywan would have been AD?
There it is.
AD would have caught it because he's 6 foot tall.
There it is.
So, but like I said, I don't have any regrets, and it was an amazing ride, and getting to play with guys like you, those are things that I'll never forget, and I appreciate the hard work that you guys put in as well, because that made my hard work worth it.
Yeah. Well, we didn't lose any scrubs either. Devery Henderson, Michael Clayton were first-round picks. Nick Saban's not a terrible coach. Pete Carroll's not bad. Bill Snyder, Darren Sproles, they turned out okay. So, I mean, shit, Jay, like you said, 3 games out of 25.
Yeah.
I mean, good ratio.
Not bad.
Love you, brother. Thank you so much. Hey, Air Comfort Solutions. Get everything that you need. These guys can take care of you. Thank you again, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
Fullback U.